A startup job is to measure, like, is to tell you like where you are right now as a business. Is to give you those hard numbers as to where you are, right? And so when you get those numbers, right, it tells you the truth about your business. Like, are you where you're supposed to be according to your business plan? Are you where you're supposed to be according to your business plan? And if you are not, this is where number two comes in. This is where you devise experiments to learn how to change those numbers, to move those numbers closer to the idea of what you had planned before, right? To the idea of what you had in your business plan, right? So those are the jobs of a startup, is to tell you where you are now with the hard numbers, with the hard truth, with the hard facts, and then you evaluate and experiment how can you move those numbers closer to the ideal number that you originally had planned out. What's up, fam? Before we get into today's episode, I want you to go check out our website at www.igotdreamspodcast.com and subscribe to our emailing list. We are creating the ultimate accountability group for entrepreneurs. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a business leader, if you are a dreamer, we want you to be a part of our group. All you got to do is go to www.igotdreamspodcast.com and subscribe to our emailing list, and we'll take it from there. This thing is going to be bigger than us, and we want you to be a part of it. Again, go to www.igotdreamspodcast.com and subscribe to our emailing list. Now, let's get back to the show. But man, let's go ahead and jump in for today, right? So we are in chapter 7 in this thing, right? So we've been doing this thing for 7 weeks. We've been learning, growing as entrepreneurs, as business owners for 7 weeks, man. Hey, thank y'all for rocking with me. Thank y'all for being here and growing with me. And we gonna continue to grow and elevate, right? So I have 5 points from this chapter. This chapter was extremely long. I think it was over 40 pages. I think 48, if I'm not mistaken. But it was extremely long. But I was able to narrow down my points to 5 points, y'all. So let's get into them, right? So, point number one: what is the job of a startup? What is the job of a startup, right? And the book says a startup's job is to rigorously measure where it is right now, confronting the hard truths that assessment reveals. And then, this is number two: devise experiments to learn how to move the real numbers closer to the ideal reflected in the business plan, right? So those are the jobs of a startup, right? Is to one, rigorously measure where it is right now, confronting the hard truths that assessment reveals. And then this is number two: devise experiments to learn how to move the real numbers closer to the ideal reflected in the business plan. So what does that mean, like in layman's terms, right? So a startup job is to measure, like, is to tell you like where you are right now as a business. Is to give you those hard numbers as to where you are, right? And so when you get those numbers, right, it tells you the truth about your business. Like, are you where you're supposed to be according to your business plan? Are you where you're supposed to be according to your business plan? And if you are not, this is where number two comes in. This is where you devise experiments to learn how to change those numbers, to move those numbers closer to the idea of what you had planned before, right? To the idea of what you had in your business plan, right? So those are the jobs of a startup, is to tell you where you are now with the hard numbers, with the hard truth, with the hard facts, and then you evaluate and experiment how can you move those numbers closer to the ideal number that you originally had planned out. That's number one, and those are the jobs of a startup, right? Number two is why perseverance is so dangerous, right? And so why perseverance is so dangerous. And this one actually got me right. Hey, good morning, Ma. Good morning. Happy 4th of July. Um, but this one got me because I'm more of a let's go, let's get it type of guy, like don't give up. like keep going after your dreams, right? And so the book actually talks about the dangers of persevering because you could be going down the wrong road, right? You could be going down a path where, like it's a dead end, right? And so the book actually talks about like it calls it the myth of perseverance, right? So it talks about like stopping, thinking, and realizing like what paths are you on, and also like using those hard numbers to determine and to help you to make that certain decision on whether you should persevere or whether you should um preserve. And we're going to talk about that a little later, right? And so that is why perseverance is so dangerous because you really don't know if you're going down the wrong road or not, and the way you figure that out is by looking at the numbers that's really presented to you and looking at the hard data that your business is showing you, whether you should pivot or whether you should persevere, right? And so that's point number two. So we've covered what is the job of startup. We covered why perseverance is so dangerous. Number three, you have to prove that you are growing a sustainable business. You have to prove that you are growing a sustainable business. And you do that through innovation accounting, right? And so innovation accounting enables startups to prove objectively that they are learning how to grow a sustainable business, right? Innovation accounting begins by turning the leap of faith assumptions discussed in chapter 5 into a qualitative financial model. So what does that mean? So innovation Innovation accounting really is that hard data, right? It's the financials. It shows you all the numbers that you need to pay attention to see if you are growing objectively, like, right. And so it's really talks about the I guess like the data and the hard data, and that's you need to look at that data in order to determine if your business is actually growing, right? And so the book talks about innovation accounting works in three steps, right? First is you create the minimum valuable product, and we've talked about that already. So a minimum valuable product is the basics of the basic product that you can offer your customers, right? MVP, a minimum valuable product, is the basic product you can offer your customer, right? Just to get it out there, give feedback, adjust according to that feedback, right? Second, startups must have attempted to tune the engine from the baseline toward the ideal, right? So you have to, whatever your baseline is, whenever you see those base numbers, you have to attempt to turn that engine to grow those numbers toward the ideal numbers that you are looking for, the ideal numbers that you have in your business plan, right? And so that gives you a good measure. That gives you a good measure to know like if you are making good progress towards the idea, right? And so establish the baseline, turn the engine, and then pivot or persevere, right? So let's jump into point number four. So we covered three already. What is the job of a startup? Why perseverance is so dangerous? You have to prove that you are growing a sustainable business. And number four is to test your riskiest assumptions first. Test your riskiest assumptions first, right? And so what does that mean? So when you have a business and you're operating, saying you're doing these tests, right? We automatically have assumptions about our business, right? So for instance, if you have an app, right, your assumption is that people are going to download the app, right? That is an assumption. You don't actually know that people are going to do that yet, right? And so what you do is you go out and test that assumption, right? And you test that particular assumption by getting the word about your app out there to people, right? And so that's how you test it. And so you set a milestone. Let's say I want 50 downloads in a week, right? And that is our goal, 50 downloads in a week. And so let's say after we've gotten the word out about that, we've marketed, and then it comes back like we only had 25 downloads, right? So we met we are halfway towards our goal, right? But we didn't reach it. So now we have to devise a test to figure out why we only got 25 instead of 50, right? Does that mean that people just don't like our product, or does that mean we need to do something different on our end to adjust the product, or or figure out some way to get us from that 25 to that 50, right? So that's how we test our assumptions, right? And the book talks about test your riskiest assumptions first, because if you test your riskiest assumption first and you find out that okay, this product is actually good, like we've actually had a test that passed, then you can move forward to the other ones, and it makes the other ones like simple. It makes them easier, right? But if you test your riskiest assumption first and it's a failed test, that's a good indication that you should actually pivot from your idea and pivot just means to come up with another strategy, a different strategy to get you to your destination. We covered that in chapter 1 or 2, I think. But if you test your riskiest assumptions and it fails, there's absolutely no reason for you to continue testing the other assumptions because this one failed. But one of your assumptions failed, that means you got something wrong in your model, right? And so that's a good indication that you should actually pivot your business, right? And so the last one, should you pivot or should you persevere, right? Should you pivot or should you persevere? And so this actually determines like this, you made that decision based on the data, right? So the book says if you're not moving the drivers of your business model, you're not making progress. That becomes a sure sign that it's time to pivot. So if you are not moving the drivers, right? If you are not getting downloads, if you are not getting sales, that 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 is a good indicator that you should pivot. But if you are getting those numbers, if you are growing, if you are getting sales, if you are getting downloads, then you should persevere. Persevere just means you keep going down the same road that you are going, continue to go down the same road that you are going down right now, right? And so that's how you should know if you should pivot or persevere. Again, it's all based on the data that you receive, right? And so this chapter actually gets a little deeper into like the details of data, what type of data, how to actually test your data, like split testing. And like split testing is basically like, again, if you have an app um, and you create like a different version of the app or a different design. You put out the old design to like, let's say it's 100 people. You put out the old design to 50 of those people, and you put out the new design to the other 50 people, and you do a split test, and you test like how they react to the old design versus the new design, right? And if the reaction is positive to the new design, you go with the new design. If the reaction is positive towards the old design, you stay with the old design, right? And so the book actually gets deeper and deeper into those type of details and metrics for this chapter. But for today, we just going to stick with those 5 points, right? Um, so again, point number one is what is the job of a startup, right? Point number two is why perseverance is so dangerous. Point number three is you have to prove that you are growing a sustainable business. Point number four is to test your riskiest assumptions first. And point number five is should you pivot or persevere? Hey, what's up, fam? Hey, what's up, Carrie? Good morning. Happy 4th of July. Those are 5 points for today, man. Again, we are here growing and learning together as entrepreneurs, as business owners. We're getting better every single week. I'm excited, y'all. Again, the book is the Lean Startup by Eric Ries, right? And so next week we'll be in chapter 8. Next week we'll be in chapter 8 and trying to get to where it's called. It's called Pivot or Persevere. So we're going to talk about pivoting or persevering, right? And so we're getting close, right? This is actually the last session, the last session for part 2, right? So I'm excited because it's only a 3-part book. So again, we're learning and growing together, man. We're getting better as entrepreneurs. We're learning and growing together as business owners. And yeah, man. We're doing this thing, man. Like we're getting smarter. We're not just out here like wishing. We are actually creating goals and making ourselves better. Um, yeah. So what I want you to do from here is if you already have a business, right? Think about what your riskiest assumption is. Think about like what is that thing that you think that's going to help you to get more clients or more downloads or more sales, whatever it is, and test it. Figure out a way to actually test that assumption, whether it's marketing, whether it's paid advertisement, whatever it is. Try to figure out how you can continue to grow your business, right? But man, I love y'all. Again, happy 4th of July. I hope you guys enjoy your family. Hope you enjoy your friends. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy some good barbecue. I know we are. So y'all have a great and wonderful day. I love you. Peace. Bam. Thank you for listening to this episode. I know you just received a lot of value. So look, here's what I want you to do now. Go to our social media platforms on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok at I Got Dreams Podcast everywhere, and like, comment, subscribe to all those channels, and let's continue the conversation on there. Look, I told you before, we are creating the ultimate accountability group for entrepreneurs, and we want you to be a part of that group. So go ahead, like, comment, subscribe to our channels at I Got Dreams Podcast everywhere, and we'll see you there. Peace.